For Sunday, November 8th, you found the Georgia Gang. And topping our agenda today, national championships of college football will come to Atlanta. Kasim Reed wins in the Georgia Supreme Court, and there's quite a messy probe of the La Vista Hills elections. Some of the stories up for grabs on the Georgia Gang.
From the Fox 5 studios, the Georgia Gang starts now.
And we're glad you'll be with us. My temptation is to begin with the state investigation of the election in La Vista Hills, but we're not going to do that. We're going to begin right in the city of Atlanta, and later, when we talk about politics, we'll go to La Vista Hills. But in the city of Atlanta, big news. The new Mercedes-Benz Stadium downtown, commissioned by Arthur Blank and the taxpayers, has won the national championship game of college football for 2018. That is monumental. It adds to the fact that the city has already won a Final Four for the new stadium and hopes to get a Super Bowl. It doesn't get any better than that, folks.
I mean, that's big time.
How's it going to get better, Jeff?
Well, you got a Hard Rock Hotel going over there in Castleberry
that's
Hill,
true.
over there in
That's
West Atlanta, West Downtown. I mean, the movement in downtown Atlanta is incredible right now. You got the mayor out there dangling tax incentives to General Electric to locate its headquarters in the city of Atlanta. And this is really, really strong stuff and shows what happens when you make these kinds of investments, I think. And I know we're going to talk about pension reform and those kinds of things, but, you know, no tax hikes, no property tax hikes over the course of his 2 terms in office. I think that this is the kind of city that you end up with, one where you have heavy business investment and a lot of people moving in and a lot of confidence in the inner city.
And don't forget about the NCR groundbreaking for the headquarters near Technology Square near Georgia Tech, too.
Well, and I'm not going to disagree. I think they're absolutely right.
I think we all agree that there's a good economic boom that's developing in downtown Atlanta. In fact, Jeff and I were talking a little earlier about the old 4th Ward and how that's been transformed. And
exactly right.
I will say the caveat, though, is something that we all have to be concerned about, and that is the rising crime in the city of Atlanta. We've got to get that under control, especially the break-ins, the carjackings.
Well, yeah, absolutely we must. But I think when you add this critical mass to downtown, when you have this Mercedes-Benz Stadium, it all started, I guess, with the aquarium. And then the World of Coke, and then the Civil Rights Museum, and then the College Football Hall of Fame, and now the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I will admit it, I was wrong. He should not have put the stadium in Doraville. Because if he did that, we wouldn't have a national championship game. We'd have better MARTA service.
Better MARTA service.
Anyway, so it was a big week for Kasim Reed.
Yes.
But on another front as well, just across the street from City Hall, the Georgia Supreme Court said that he was right in curtailing employee pensions, asking for higher contributions from city workers and reducing benefits. And I'm not sure the numbers fully work, but I guess they do. The confidence level seems high. Now the question becomes, will we see a real loss of firefighters and policemen?
I hope that we don't. You know, there has been attrition. We've talked about it on the gang here. It's been very disturbing. There's been a lot of feuding between the mayor and, of course, the police and the firemen. And there's been stories in the media about low morale. And let's hope this now turns around and that we can get.
I agree. And I think that you're going to see those raises coming fast. I understand that some of the police are getting them already. But look at some of the other cities who didn't do this. I mean, you know, Chicago. Over $500 million in property tax increases because just to meet those pension fund obligations. That's exactly right. Detroit, and so you know because this was done and done early. You've got a police and fire pension funds that are like 85 and 87% fully funded and are going to soon be 100% fully funded. And these folks, and the good part about it is the employees themselves, they are going to be able to count on the fact that those pensions will be there for them.
Right.
You know, thank you for pointing that out, because the 80 and 85% and the 70%, the funding of the city pension funds, that does not exist in the other major cities.
That's right.
Why unions?
Right.
Destructive to the cause of government.
Right. Well, you couldn't get it done, you couldn't get it done in Chicago because of the unions. But and so taxpayers had to do it with their own property taxes, and that was the difference.
Well, and that was the unions that filed a suit here, even after the firefighters were represented in coming up with the plan for the pension fund.
Now, Kasim did lose one this week, Mayor Kasim Reed. It wasn't huge, but I was kind of interested in watching it. the U.S. House of Representatives said no more funds for streetcars.
Well, it's interesting because
So Obama's legacy, President Obama's legacy seems to be Obamacare, which is failing, and
Not
streetcars,
failing.
which are going to be discontinued.
well, it was the old failed stimulus, and even a lot of Democrats around the country are saying, you know, we could redirect this money elsewhere, or conservatives are saying cut it out completely.
Well, I mean, the streetcars are a place for people to sleep, take a load off, relax,
I
see
don't
the
even know if
sights.
the one in D.C. is up yet.
It is running.
It is finally running because
But it
that
isn't
was
running very far.
But
That
I
was
think-
way
well,
overdue.
But I do think it is a great connection for tourism from the King Center to Centennial Olympic Park.
Have you been on there though? I mean, the people are just sleeping and using it
Well,
as a
that's 'cause
home.
it's
It's
wintertime and
ridiculous.
it's not high tourist
Well,
season,
and
but I
because it's
think it will
free,
be.
and I don't think that it's always
Right,
going
it's
to
not
be
gonna always
free.
be
You know,
free.
once the point, even if you just charge $1, I don't think you're going to have
You're
people
not gonna
sleeping
have
on
people
it.
living there, right?
You know, but it's old technology. It really is, and you know, just to get it in there, the infrastructure,
So
tearing up the
expensive.
streets,
Well-
the overhead lines. You know, we're talking about 19th century technology, and so I think that's why Congress is saying, wait a minute, what are we doing here? There are better, more efficient ways for us to move people around, and in fact, there are.
Well, and the Atlanta streetcar, despite your comment, Alexis, it does duplicate what MARTA does through buses and trains.
Yeah, but the novelty of it, I think, is a tourist attraction.
It's too expensive.
Much like the streetcars in San Francisco.
It's too expensive.
So if you read the papers this week, you would have thought that the Cobb County Transportation Director, Fada Massimo, had been rushed out of town on a rail, right? No, she's the new director of Atlanta's infrastructure.
That's right.
I think
A
I
good
think that's
deal.
fascinating.
Yeah. Well, she's a very highly qualified person.
Yeah.
And it's Cobb's loss at a time when they need somebody who's really qualified
That's right.
like she is.
Yes.
But again, as they say in the newspaper, she was doing a terrible job. No, she wasn't.
No.
Doing a pretty good job.
Yep.
Well, I think the problem over in Cobb County was, as we all know, the lack of transparency with regard to the use of taxpayer dollars on the new Braves Stadium.
Well,
Yeah.
and also the lack of probability of solving the transportation
Well,
problem.
that's the other part of it too. Absolutely.
No matter how good you are.
And just to wrap up this segment, which is all positive news, unless you're a fan of streetcars, Alexis, you made glancing mention of NCR
Yes.
and the new corporate headquarters at Technology Square.
Right.
And the buzz at the end of the week was that Kasim Reed is going whole hog on GE, trying to get their corporate headquarters here. I don't see that. What do you think?
Oh my goodness, I think that we're #1 on the list.
Oh,
for
I
GE.
agree.
Yeah, I
agree
think
with
there's a
Jeff.
good chance.
Yeah.
In fact, the governor of Connecticut is very worried. If you read these news accounts, he's trying to counter. It's a battle going on, Dick.
You think it's down to the two?
I do.
You know, well, they had some import-export bank legislation, and some Texas senators voted against that. So the Texas cities were eliminated from competition. Look, we've got, you know, we've created a strong business environment here. We've seen others come over the course of the last 7-8 years, and we've got Hartsfield, Jackson,
do.
Atlanta International Airport, and that gets you all over the world,
And
almost
Jeff,
directly.
You saw, and I think all of you saw, just for the third year in a row, Site Selection Magazine named Georgia the number one place where to do business. So congratulations on your positive note to Governor Deal and his economic team.
Well, absolutely. There's no question about it. All right. When we come back, Phil went to Savannah. Yes, he did. And it wasn't just to have good seafood. He'll tell us about it when we return.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Visit their website at fox5atlanta.com.
We continue to ask the question if casino gambling is possibly headed to Georgia. I've suggested that it seems to be greased. Others on this panel disagree with me. But Phil, you went to Savannah for hearings early in the week, and the gaming industry seemed willing to raise their tax payout from the original 12% to 20%.
That's right.
That's a good take for the state.
That's right. It was actually, to set the stage for the viewers, it was a hearing by a Senate committee and a House committee dubbed the Preservation of the Hope Scholarship. Now remember that. I'm going to come back to that in a second.
For
but
the
you're
children.
right.
It's for the
But you're right. It's the casino people were there in force, and for the first time, the opponents were there in force, including clergymen and the Georgia Baptist Association. And It's just my own opinion. I think this is more about the casino people trying to get a foothold in Georgia, where by law you can only gamble. It's a constitutional amendment through the lottery, where we have our gaming now. And so, one legislator was asked, and I think this is very interesting, what exactly is the dollar amount, baseball figure, to preserve the Hope Scholarship? They didn't know the answer to that. So wouldn't that be the most intelligent, question to have answered when you're listening to all of these pitches from these casino companies? You mentioned the Hard Rock Cafe. They want to do perhaps a casino. Ron Stevens, the lawmaker from Savannah, says there's up to 6 locations. I haven't seen any studies on that. And of course, they had a professor there from Georgia who gave all of the downside on casino gambling and the rise in crime, et cetera, et cetera. So I think the odds are 50-50 that this will come in. I do, and you've heard me say this, I think fantasy sports gaming is where the money is. It's unregulated. Where's Attorney General Sam Olens? Is it legal to do this here in Georgia? I'd love to know.
Well, other states are taking the lead on that. There's no question, and that's going to be resolved, whether it's gambling or whether it's just a game of skill, they say.
Right. Well,
I'm not sure about that.
Should look at both as sources of revenue: casino gambling and fantasy sports. Why not?
All right. Now we do know, though, that Sam Olens is taking the lead with other states in trying to roll back these costly EPA regulations, which are the most onerous in the history of that agency.
Well, they're also a complete federal overreach. I mean, it's happened in both Democrat and Republican administrations, but it's gotten worse. And the latest, Sam Olens has joined with other Democrat and Republican attorneys general to try to stop this onerous regulation that is really affecting our electric rates, not here, but here potentially, but in other states too. And that is they're trying to stifle the coal plants.
Yeah, well, President Obama, of course, has a war on coal.
Right.
And lost an election.
That's why he
in
lost Kentucky the other day.
this week. And there's also that water thing. What's it called? Waters of the World or Waters?
Well, it's also, that's right, the EPA overreach. And then there's another one, the Clean Power Plan, which a majority of attorneys general again are suing. So this is of course what you do in a democratic country. You
I think
try to stop the executive overreach.
But I think it's progressive thinking to look out for the environment, because you don't want to have
do it legislatively.
Well, the legislature hasn't done squat in 7 years.
But that's the way our system is designed.
And so they need to get their jobs done then.
Well, and the environment is cleaner than it has been in any time since the 1930s.
And it's because of regulations.
But you can go too far.
That's right.
And you can squash business. This water thing, if you listen to Johnny Isaacson and David Perdue, if you've got a little, piece in your backyard that just happens to fill up with water during heavy rains like we've had the last week.
It's a wetland.
It's a wetland, yeah. And you can come under federal regulation. And that plays hob with farmers in particular. All right. Strange doings in the federal courthouse in downtown Atlanta. Tyrone Brooks, whom I've known for 40 years, is having sentencing hearings. And a little concept called right and wrong never seemed to enter into the discussion. A galaxy of civil rights stars, Andrew Young, C.T. Vivian, and by letter Joseph Lowery, testified that Tyrone didn't do anything wrong. He just did some simple bookkeeping errors, and he shouldn't go to prison.
He was accused of wrongly
shaking
down.
$1 million.
He stole money. He's a former state lawmaker. And the one thing that I think the prosecutors are correct on, they want to at least get him 2 years in jail. We'll know next week. But he pleaded guilty, walks out of the courthouse, gives an interview to a TV reporter and says, "I'm not guilty." There's no remorse whatsoever, and I think that's going to hurt him.
I think a lot of the civil rights leaders said that he clearly did wrong, but that he has clearly done a lot of good.
Because he wasn't a good bookkeeper.
Yeah, but I think that there was some acknowledgement that he,
that it was done improperly.
That it was done improperly, and that it was illegal.
He didn't show remorse.
That it was wrong.
He didn't show remorse.
And I think that you're going to see him show remorse, because obviously he's going to be one of the last folks to go up there on the stand, and I think you're going to see him show a great deal of remorse. I was interested to see Mike Bowers step into it and say that he thought that he should get probation and not jail time as well. And because of the really good work that Tyrone Brooks has done in the community and for poor people throughout Georgia and the Southeast for the last, as you said,
What
40, 50
about, what
years.
about,
But he
what
didn't
about
do
people,
the work.
well, what about people that don't have all of these celebrities and high-powered people issuing these great,
You know, I
great
think that
guides?
the ju- I think that
that's
the
bad.
judge-
I don't like to be influenced
You
by
know,
that.
I think that the judge is going to weigh that. I really do. And I think that at the end of the day, if I had to predict right now, I would say at the end of the day that he's going to get some jail time, but it would probably be less than a year.
I agree with
Minimal.
you. I agree with
I
you.
think so.
I think 2 years
Yeah.
is probably not going to happen,
Right.
but I don't think probation is going to happen. And here's the other thing about all that good work he did.
Yeah.
He didn't do it.
Well, yes.
The evidence shows he took the money but didn't do the work.
But he did do the work in the state legislature, and he did organize the black elected officials. He did a lot of good work for the state.
You admit that he's a crook, though.
I don't admit that he's a crook.
Well, he pled guilty.
I admit that he made a
He
mistake.
pled guilty.
So it doesn't make him a crook.
Well, he
Now,
says
you
he's a
sound
crook.
like you're going to testify for him.
Well,
all right.
no.
It's all this corporate shakedown that's gone on. I like the fact that Coca-Cola knew his foundation had gone out of business, and they sent him a check anyway.
Wasn't that stupid?
Because that's, I guess, what you do
Right.
when you're shaking down corporations.
It's
all right.
wrong.
We have to get out. When we come back, the Secretary of State steps into that La Vista Hills election in DeKalb County, and we'll try to sort that out for you. Stay with us.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Visit their website at fox5atlanta.com.
Before we turn to the Secretary of State, a little crosstalk among us. I want to go back to that previous topic. Among those who testified on behalf of Tyrone Brooks in federal court was the former Attorney General of Georgia, Mike Bowers, another old friend of ours. I go back at least that far with Mike Bowers. Mike Bowers asked for mercy for Tyrone Brooks on the grounds that Tyrone Brooks was an old man.
Partly. He did say that.
He said he's an old man.
Yes.
Tyrone Brooks is 70.
And we don't consider that old
I don't
anymore,
consider
do we?
that old at all.
I think Mike Bowers is 70.
Mike Bowers is older than 70. What is he talking about?
That's right.
Come on, Mike, rethink that. All right, now, I mean, Bill Shipp would agree with us, right? All right, the Secretary of State, out of nowhere this week, and you don't see this very often. I can't remember the Georgia Secretary of State getting involved in an election in metro Atlanta. Sometimes in rural areas where there's a sheriff that's got too much power, maybe.
Fulton County in the past.
Well, but that was the election board, not so much the elections.
Right.
In this case, the Secretary of State is investigating allegations that I don't think there's any way to put it except that the election for the city of La Vista Hills was stolen. It lost by 136 votes, incorporation of that city, 136 votes. There's evidence or a suggestion, not evidence,
Yes, there
that
is.
one whole precinct may not have been tabulated, that it was a smart card just laying around.
There was a memory card that was supposedly laying around for the machine. There was a problem with provisional voting where people were complaining about being turned away from polling places. And there was an absentee ballot problem as we start to tape. So some of this, unfortunately, in DeKalb County, you've got, it's like a corrupt third world atmosphere. It's another black mark against the county. And the GBI is investigating along with the Secretary of State. So I'm glad that they moved quickly.
Well, and see, that's important to note, I think. The Secretary of State doesn't move on this without some hard evidence. And the fact that the GBI is involved is a very telling thing.
Right, and
so the GBI is now investigating almost the whole county. You know, we used to say in DeKalb that the best aspects of it were the sanitation department, right, and the fire department, and the elections office. You didn't really hear any complaints about the elections office.
Right.
And now it's this taint of corruption, at any rate, has spread to everything, including sanitation and the elections office.
You know, it's a heavily contested vote there, you know, with almost equally split between folks who wanted the city of La Vista Hills and those who were determined to stop it. Apparently there was a lot of money that was funneled into both sides of the campaigns late in that. I have no idea who the consultants were, any of that stuff, don't want to know. But, you know, when you have that kind of situation and you have such a close vote, I think that they have to take a look and see what's going on.
Now, the city of Tucker, interestingly enough, they overwhelmingly voted
70%,
for it.
was it?
That's
Yeah.
right, 70% for statehood. That will be
Cityhood,
very...
cityhood.
cityhood, excuse me.
And they had a lot
interesting.
fewer citizens, though, too, right? About half the size.
Yeah, and they're not going to have
La Vista
police.
Hills.
Tucker's only going to have a city light.
They didn't
But
have
think about this. La Vista Hills could be poached not by the new city of Tucker.
Well, I
They're right
wouldn't-
next door to one another. And, you know, I used to live in the North Lake area. That's a very lucrative area for taxes.
Well, I think, Phil, I don't think that's even something to joke about. I think it's going to happen.
I know.
I think Brookhaven will look at annexing some of La Vista Hills. I think Tucker, once it's up and running next summer, will look at grabbing something like, for example, North Lake Mall.
Right.
You could see all number of cities get in
the
there.
La Vista cityhood folks better hope that they can win their election.
Yeah, so they'll be picked apart like
Or not, right?
like a cheese tray at a party. So Tucker, though, that was a big vote. They were late to the party of new cities. I think because they always thought they were a
They
city.
were. Well, that they were
They
one
already thought they were.
Anyway, there were some other little interesting tidbits. Kelly Couch, the mayor of Snellville, who is always just a good headline, lost her re-election bid to a fellow named Tom Witz, and Max Bacon over in Smyrna. I think he's going to be mayor for life.
That's right. The people love him.
Yeah, Max Bacon
How about Dunwoody?
wins in Smyrna.
Yeah, your Dunwoody mayor lost.
The Dunwoody incumbent mayor lost badly to the city councilman, and it was really an issue of personalities, not issues.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it really just came down to which guy you liked better.
And in Brookhaven, you have shockingly liberal Democrats running the city.
Yes, a liberal Democrat now runs the city, and that's, well, he hasn't taken over quite yet, but yes, he does.
I forget who the mayor is now.
Yeah, but no, John Ernst, an up-and-coming young Democrat, will be the new mayor of Brookhaven.
Don't you think that was more of a personality rather than a political thing?
No, it was union money. It was the same thing. The AFL-CIO proudly listed John Ernst as one of the candidates that they'd supported.
And it may be part of the blue strategy, too.
Well,
I doubt it, but
no, you're
Well,
right. It could be, Alexis.
I
Believe
don't
me,
know.
I've
Not,
given
not
that
what
some
you
thought.
saw last Tuesday with everybody basically moving to the right all around the country.
I'm
Well,
talking about in
and
Georgia.
one other election result that I
Metro.
think is worth noting: Gwinnett is going to re-up their education
Right.
SPOS, their 1 cent sales tax. You realize that thing's almost $1 billion over the 5 years. I think it's 980 million.
And you know, that is one of the good school systems there, the public school
It's a
systems.
huge school system.
It
It's got
is,
over
right.
150,000 students. I believe it's
Is it the largest in the state?
Really, $1 billion for new schools? Whoa, that's a lot of money. All right, when we come back, winners and losers.
Time now for the week's winners and losers.
And before I go to Jeff, I just want to say, to acknowledge one thing up front here, Alexis. You're going to be away from the broadcast for a few weeks,
Yep.
having that other hip surgery.
That's right.
This table has the corner on hip replacements,
Yeah.
and I wish you best. It's not easy.
No.
This is your second one.
Yeah.
All right, Jeffrey, go for winners and losers.
Well, thank you, Dick. I appreciate that. And Kasim Reed, again, you know, we talked about pension reform. Also, the City Council, which voted unanimously for that reform. The business community, which was solidly behind it. I think that they all got a major win. And again, I think the I think the public service safety provider employees are going to benefit from this in the end. Press Club Hall of Fame winners: Dennis O'Hare, Charlene Hunter Gall, Dick Pettis, and Hank Klebanoff. They're all winners.
Yeah,
All right. Great.
Hall of Famers.
That's
No
right.
matter how long they've been here. All right, Alexis.
All had great, inspiring careers, too. I'm also going to congratulate the Center for Puppetry Arts. They have opened on November 14th a new expansion, $14 million expansion, a museum that will highlight a lot of Jim Henson's puppets and Muppets. So they're a winner, and it continues the Atlanta downtown explosion, so that's good for them too. And then Hillary Clinton had a triumphant appearance here in Atlanta last week, and the Black Lives Matter group did show up and demonstrate. And I also know that they afterwards met met with John Lewis, Andy Young met with them. I'm still trying to wrap my arms around the Black Lives Matter movement beyond just being disruptive, but they have sparked some good conversation about some good reforms. And can I have a point of personal privilege and tell my mommy happy birthday? She turned 92 this week.
Wow.
And so happy for her. So she's my winner.
You're not going to give a shout out to your hip surgeon? He's the one that's going to take care of you.
He'll be a winner when I get back. I'll do that.
Okay. All right, Phil.
Got a bunch of losers. The lawmaker Kurt Thompson, a lawyer, he got jailed for contempt of court. The judge accused him of lying when he didn't show up. And of course, a bunch of losers. Last weekend was a disastrous time for Atlanta football. All three of the teams, including my Bulldogs.
Yeah, and the rumor mill around the Bulldogs is it's amazing. Some of the allegations that are being made. And
Mark Richt needs to look at maybe going to Miami.
Well, that's one of the rumors. You know, he is a Miami alumnus.
Maybe if he left before he played Georgia Tech, that would be good.
Well, I'm in Rick's corner.
Why?
Well, you know.
Did you watch the game last weekend?
I did. It was pretty sorry. Kasim Reed, winner, clearly, on lots of fronts. And the Braves, what a wonderful business. Terrible ball club. They lost revenue. Nobody cared about them, but their profit went up. Hey, business is good for you. See you next week on the Georgia Gang.
Only in America.
Yeah.
The opinions expressed in this broadcast are those of the panelists appearing in this program